way. Never despair, joys everywhere. Love can befriend you today. Free from all care, like birds on the air, soar above griefs and worries, seek joy and be gay. Often on earth, things of great worth, worldly ambitions define. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend down from life's cares to the sky. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh. Life is a dream, time like a stream, carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere. Love can befriend you today. Free from all care, like birds on the air, soar above griefs and worries, seek joy and be gay. Often on earth, things of great worth, worldly ambitions defy. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend out from life's cares to the sky. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh.
Today's reading from Rays of the One Life by Swami Kriyananda. We're on week 8, and the title is, Can Man See God? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. There is a saying in chapter 1 of the Gospel of St. John that would seem to respond with a definite no to the question, can man see God? The saying is, no man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. Many great saints, however, claim to have seen God. If we ask then, can God be seen, rather than can man see God, the answer is yes. Else those saints lied, and the scriptures themselves lied. For Jesus also said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The point is, it is not man, this human body, these human eyes, that sees God. God can be seen only with spiritual vision, with the eye of the soul. As the Bhagavad Gita puts it in the 11th chapter, thou canst not see me with mortal eyes, therefore I now give thee sight divine. Behold my supreme power of yoga. With these words, Hari, the exalted Lord of Yoga, revealed himself to Arjuna in his infinite form. Paramahansa Yogananda, in Autobiography of a Yogi, described the supernal experience in words more readily comprehensible to modern minds than the poetic phraseology of the Bhagavad Gita. The chapter, An Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, is one of the most inspiringly beautiful in all mystical literature. Here's a brief excerpt. An oceanic joy broke upon calm, endless shores of my soul. The Spirit of God, I realized, is exhaustless bliss. His body is countless tissues of light. I saw the divine dispersion of rays pour from an eternal source, blazing into galaxies, transfigured with ineffable auras. Again and again I saw the creative beams condense into constellations, then resolve into sheets of transparent flame. By rhythmic reversion, sextillion worlds passed into a diaphanous luster. Fire became firmament. I recognized the center of the Imperium as a point of intuitive perception in my heart. Irradiating splendor issued from my nucleus to every part of the universal structure. The creative voice of God I heard resounding as Om, the cosmic vibration of the cosmic motor. This, so the great masters aver, is what God is. And this also, they insist, is what we are in our deepest reality. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om.
Well, good morning, everyone. Joy to see you all. This question, can man see God, is very near and dear to our own hearts, because as that thrilling chapter says in Autobiography of a Yogi, the experience that Yogananda had of the infinite, of his perception of the infinite and his communicating that perception, it's so dramatic, it's so cosmic and thrilling, and it also calls to us that it isn't enough to hear about that experience. It's an experience we want to have too ourselves. And it's one of the lovely things about the Bible that when it says on the one hand, no man hath seen God at any time, that only the Christ, the only begotten, he hath declared him. So it seems, well, okay, that pretty much rules all of us out. And then Jesus says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And so if we can't use one to sort of feel separate or for anyone to make us feel separate, that yearning is natural. In fact, Yogananda's first disciple in America, Dr. Lewis, came up to him. I don't know how, I forget the story of how he came to find him. But he went to this room and he found this Indian man who he had this appointment with, and he said, Dr. Lewis, who was a dentist from Boston, and they were in Boston, and he said to him, it says in the Bible that if thine eye be single, thy whole body will be full of light. Do you know what that means? And Yogananda said, I think so. And then Dr. Lewis said, can you explain that to me? Can you show me what that is? And Yogananda said, I think so. And so Dr. Lewis, said, okay. And so Yogananda said, well, do you promise to love me always as I love you? And Dr. Lewis said there was something about this man that made him instinctively say, yes. And then Yogananda leaned forward first he rubbed his hands together and said, excellent, now I can take charge of your life. And I think before Dr. Lewis could ruminate on that one for too long, Yogananda pressed his forehead against Dr. Lewis's forehead. And Dr. Lewis saw the spiritual eye break out. It's the single eye. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's a yellow ring with a blue circle inside and a 5-pointed white star in the middle. It's a universal experience. as you may see even in some churches where they have the dove, which is also a 5-pointed star set inside a blue circle, and then sometimes even with yellow around it. So Dr. Lewis was in such ecstasy that he just kind of wandered, found his way home. Now, his wife was waiting for him because it was after midnight on Christmas Eve, and she was ready with rolling pin in hand, as the story goes. But then when he walked in, she said, "He has the face of an angel. He couldn't have been up to any mischief with a face like that." And so Dr. Lewis's desire to see that light was fulfilled. Again, it's a desire that many of us have. And whether it's because we want to see the light, or whether it's because we want to be reassured that we are in contact with actual divine realities, that yearning is there. The wonderful thing about yoga practice is that it gives a hypothesis, it gives a prescription. It says, do this, and this is what ought to happen. See for yourself. Try it out. And then when it does happen, for example, when people learn the Om technique after taking discipleship, there's different sounds of the chakras that we go over. We go over it even in Raja Yoga class. And invariably when people hear the A sound for the first time, I heard it! I had one guy in India who was saying, I don't hear the sounds. And he was a professor, actually is a professor here in America, but he's Indian and was visiting his Indian family, and that's how he came to take these classes. He said, I don't hear the sounds. I said, yeah, keep practicing. No, but I don't hear them. I said, well, I know, but it's been a week, and so, he said, but I don't hear them. And I said, well, whether you hear them or not, the sounds are there. You just don't hear them yet. And he went, okay. And then the next time we spoke, he said, I heard the bumblebee! And so that experience is so reassuring that yes, these are divine experiences that we can have. At the same time, having these experiences is not necessarily a mark of our spiritual progression. Jyotish, who many of you know, is the spiritual director of Ananda Village, and many of you have, along with his wife Devi, and many of you have met him. And if you haven't, you'll have the opportunity to meet him right here in this room 1 month from today, 1 month from today in March. They're just coming back from India, where they've been with Swamiji, and then they'll be coming here. So, Jyotish, when he first came to Swami Kriyananda, learned to meditate, and I don't know exactly what his experiences were, but they were not like what I've just been describing, Dr. Lewis's and so on. And his sister, Jyotish's sister, if I have the story right, also came and thought, I'll try this stuff. The first time she meditated, she saw the spiritual eye. She felt all this energy in her spine. She even saw the 1,000-petaled lotus, the crown chakra at the top of the head. And she thought, well, that was fun. And she never came back. As far as I know, I don't know if she even continued meditating. You can ask him when you see him. But it was, you could say, too easy. Or it just wasn't there. In other words, having those visions does not necessarily correlate. It's not, they're beautiful things, it's nothing against them, but I say it because it's a temptation to hear of these things and say, well, if I don't have that, then I must be this, and all the others must be that. And it's just not true. Rajarsi Janakananda, Yogananda's most advanced disciple, reached a point where he was going through a very dark test, and he saw the spiritual eye all the time. But at that time, he said, this blackness came in and completely obscured it. And he meditated, and he said it was very painful to have that experience. We may think it's difficult to just be seeing in the darkness, and seeing no light. But for he who had seen the light and then felt that it was gone, which is something, of course, we can all relate to, he felt desolate. And then he just kept at it, kept concentrating, kept trying to pierce the darkness. And then there was a pinprick of light, the tiniest little photon, not really, but speck of light. And then he saw that light, and then it gradually expanded and expanded and expanded, and then the light came back, which is a wonderful story and a wonderful metaphor. Again, it's such a joy to see you all. I was a little confused at first, like, is it Easter or something? But for those of you who don't know, this is actually Dharmini and I saying goodbye for now and passing the baton to Narayan and Dharma Devi, and to, of course, just to speak with you. For maybe the few people who haven't heard the story, it came about in the following way. We were in Arizona, of all places, and this was the weekend that Swami Kriyananda, who is lecturing and touring throughout India, went to the city of Chennai in the state of Tamil Nadu in the south of India. And he went there, and it was different to go to Chennai because we don't have a strong Ananda center in that particular city. There's been some energy there, and there was certainly a lot of build-up for this talk that he was coming to give, but there hasn't been a center for years, as there has been in Bangalore and other places. And they rented the hall. The hall they chose was a 1,500-seat hall, and they were concerned because that's a lot of seats, and they didn't want it to not fill up and so on. And so the people assured them that they had their balconies, and you can open the balconies successively so that, it can kind of be staged and filled. But a half an hour before the talk began, the whole hall was filled. And by filled, it means not only the 1,500 seats, but another 100 people in all the aisles and so on. Well,
They said 2,000 were there.
So,
Maybe I have my numbers.
1,500 in the seats, 100 in the aisle, and then 400 in the lobby.
Oh.
That's watching it on a TV screen. And then 1,000 more who were turned away at the door. So 3,000 people. And so obviously the big question after that was, okay, so something's happening in Chennai. And so Swami wrote to us that evening. We were naturally curious to see how the talk went, and he said, there's such a big response here, would you move here? And here we are in Arizona, being, him asking us to move to Chennai, and I just thought, I haven't slept in a while, and, trying to get it straight again, because we had been in India for 4 years, and we've been back for 2.5 years. And it just didn't register. I thought, so when he says, do you want to move to India, what he means is that he, are you committed to Los Angeles? That's what he must be asking. And so I wrote back, we are very committed to Los Angeles. And so he said, well, he was basically, what he said was, with your name, you would have an easy time in Chennai, because my name, Dharmaraj Iyer, is actually Dharmarajan Iyer. It's a South Indian name inherited from my father, who's from the South. And we have relatives in Chennai, and family who we're also friends with, which is always a nice combination. And so on. We know the city a little bit. But he said, well, let me talk to Jyotish and Devi when they come. And so it seemed like, with a little bit of uneasiness, that was settled. And the reason why is because, this is where we live. This is our home now. This is where our focus. and all of our time is. I mean, and this is now life. And so it can't just change just like that. It can't, and we can't just go to India and so on. And so, for my own part of that story, I really was convinced that it was just, how committed are you to LA? Good, you passed the test. And then, so when the second email came, 2 weeks later, after talking to Jyotish and Devi, saying, please come to Chennai, please go to Chennai, then, I had to look at that. And my first response was, we are really committed to LA, ... And then I spoke to Dharmini, and then we wrote back and said, I guess that was how I felt. That was my heart. And we said, yes, okay. It was so out of left field. I mean, it was so out of the blue. The only time I've ever had that experience before with Swamiji is when he said, will you go to LA? It was the same thing. I was sick at home with a cold. Both of us were sick. We were home from work, and the phone rang, and someone said, so you're going to LA? It said, who is this? What? And who do you think you're calling? And then the phone rings again, and it's Devi, and she says, hi. And it was, hi, Devi, how are you? I said, well, the body is weak, but the spirit, that's good. Here's Swami. And she hands the phone to Swami. And he says, I'm sending you to Los Angeles. And, it is rare that one gets a phone call from Swami and that he directly says, this is what I'd like you to do. And so in the face of that honor, I said, wow. Sir, wow. Because I couldn't say, great, that's exactly what I was thinking this morning when I woke up. And also, he didn't ask, actually, in that particular case, which was very fortunate for two reasons. One is, I couldn't have said yes if he had asked in that moment. I would say, I don't know. But he didn't ask. The other thing that was fortunate is that we didn't realize we were on speakerphone on his end, and there were 14 people sitting around just kind of like... We learned that later. So Dharmini said something more coherent than that when he asked. So there was a certain amount of reflection in this, that no, we're in LA, we're committed to LA, we're focused here, we have so many friends here, and this is what we're doing, but yet we're only here because he sent us here in the first place. Now, in terms of the chapter of Ananda's history that we are living through, it's an unusual chapter. In 1968, Ananda was founded, and so there was so much birth energy, creativity, chaos, all the stuff that's needed to create something. And then, as we say at Ananda, you go through the Brahma stage, the Vishnu stage, and the Shiva stage. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and then Shiva is the destroyer and transmuter and bringer in of the new chapter and so on. But the destroyer nonetheless. And so that birthing Brahma energy, whipping something up, giving it enough juice so that it can then go forward. None of us were here for that, right? Shivani's not here? Okay. Shivani's in the South Bay. But yeah, so Shivani was here for that, but the rest of us weren't. And so we get to see pictures of people in teepees and just think, wow, what must have that been like? And so then in the 90s, that's when all of the urban communities, Palo Alto, Seattle, that's when they all got started. So that was another birthing energy after 22 years of the village being the focus. And in fact, Ananda then meant Ananda Village. Even if you lived in a colony, say, did you go to Ananda this weekend? It meant Ananda Village. It actually has taken time for even that word culturally to not mean Ananda Village anymore, but to mean Ananda everywhere. And not just places everywhere, because Ananda's even online And also, of course, though, Ananda is a state of mind. Ananda means bliss. Interesting little piece of trivia. Someone asked Swami once, why did you name Ananda Ananda when you were starting it? What made you choose that name? And he said, I don't quite remember, but he said, but after all, the goal of life is Satchidananda, which means God, in the way of ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. So a natural outgrowth of that. So it gave a different shade to our name as Ananda. So coming back, in the 90s, there was all kinds of joyous turmoil in that time, because Ananda Palo Alto, for those of you who have been there, it's so beautiful and established and wonderful, and Asha and David have been there for 25 years, but they didn't start there. There were many leaders there before them. And in fact, when they came, they were coming to lead with another couple, Anandi and Bharat, who many of you may know. And they were going to be the four of them together, and Anandi and Bharat went on just a short sabbatical and then never came back. And they just had been pulled into another thing. And so, Ananda Seattle, the leaders there, Hriman and Padma, who you may know or you've seen online, they too didn't start Seattle. In fact, Asha was a big part of helping to start that community. So you see, there was all of this birthing wild energy. And then it's all stable. So we don't remember any of that because it's been 25 years ago. And also the same is true, I should add, for Italy. Italy was getting birthed at that same time. And so for most of us coming to Ananda, especially here in America, Ananda just is. And you come in and it's been, of course I say that with an asterisk because you say, not Ananda LA. It's been, had its birthing and energies and chapters too, which is great. But the thing that's also happening in Ananda's history right now is India. That India is taking off in a big way. And it's taken a long time for Ananda to go to India. Not because we've tried repeatedly. It's just that it took a while before the time was right. And frankly, it takes a certain something to live and operate in India if you're not from there, and sometimes even if you are, and kind of stay sane and stay happy. I love India. It's nothing against it, but it's a little hard on the physical plane. At one point I was talking to someone from India, and an American in India, and she was saying, oh boy, put a lot of work on this body in the past few years. And I said, well, it's only been 2 years. And she said, Dharmaraj, it's not the years, it's the mileage. We're slogging through a lot of stuff. And on the other hand, a friend of ours told us, who was in India, that we were all thinking who could go to Chennai because it's a city in India where there isn't an established group. So it isn't as if, okay, here's this whole community of 25 devotees and they finally campaigned to have a full-time teacher come. It's just, oh my God, Chennai is suddenly a growing concern because after that lecture they had a Learn to Meditate and Energize class and had 120 people for it. And then they started a Raja Yoga after that and had 60 people for it. And so it just, there is a need here. And we are among the only ones at this point who were in India, left India, and, left India, came back to America, and then suddenly started to get pulled back to India. Haridas and Roma lived with us in Palo Alto. They moved to India, and then we moved to India. And then they moved to Southern California, and then we moved to Southern California. Then they moved back to India, and we said bye. And there was a sinking, feeling, but like I said, we were secure here. And then we got this call too, because I've already said all the different things. So It is, of course, we have one advantage, I have to say, not just us, but those of us who have been a part of Ananda for longer, because of course it's been such a joy to be here. We have felt welcomed, from the beginning. We've developed such good friendships with you all, and we've learned so much being here. And it's been a great privilege and honor to be here. And we thought it would be longer. And even this service has an interesting genesis, because Shivani, we normally do the services in in LA on the first and the third Sunday of the month. And so Shivani said, well, I would like to do the service on the third Sunday because I'll just be arriving from Palo Alto, so can you just switch and do the fourth Sunday? We said, sure. Having no idea that fourth Sunday would be this fourth Sunday, that it would be the day before we left. And we also think, we work out our lives very clearly, and we do our taxes and we file them on time and all these things, and it's all up to us. Tomorrow is the 18-month anniversary of the day that we arrived here. To the day. We arrived on the 25th of August. So, some things, as always, as we know, guide all of our lives together. The advantage, though parting is painful, and although I'm telling you all about this, excitement of this new chapter, of course, there's a pinch in the heart. And the other thing is true, as they say, when you're born on earth, when you die on earth, there's a funeral, but there's a celebration in the astral world. Similarly, when you're born on earth, there's everybody going, oh, how cute, to take the photo and send it out to 2,000 friends on Facebook. But there's a funeral in the astral world, because for a time you're separated. And when we came back to America, there was a lot of sadness of parting from India because of the distance. It's not as easy, although we all are united in God's love and the internet also. But the thing, though, that I was saying, the one advantage that we have, that we discovered in all the sort of the old timers, and at Ananda LA, if you've been here longer than 6 weeks, you're an old timer, is that we have all been together before, even in this incarnation. I mean, I'm looking at Lori and thinking of how we lived together in Palo Alto, and Peter and Keshava, we lived together in the village. So with Narayan and Dharma Devi. Ramesha, we didn't quite live with, but we met him in Palo Alto right before he got married, right? Yeah, before he got married. The day that we were moving from Palo Alto to the village. And of course, Bhagavati and I came around the same time. And so, we have that history together. But when you don't have that, it's hard to imagine that you will stay connected. But at Ananda, you do. And you see it. And all it takes is that first time of reconnecting. Oh, okay, because sometimes in this world, people go and they're gone. And it's not true when you're part of a spiritual community. So we look forward to the first time we're back in LA, or the first Ananda LA pilgrimage to Chennai. Or the village is often actually the common place. It's kind of like the astral world where everybody sort of comes for spiritual renewal week and so on. But again, the point of this whole thing is spiritual community, friendship, meditation, Kriya Yoga, to the extent that these support us in our quest to see the light, in our quest to find freedom. God is bringing us home very quickly, and let's help each other and help ourselves to get to Him just as soon as we can. God bless you.
Not quite done. I want to also just say how wonderful it is to see every single face in this audience, and how I'm very happy to say we've hugged a lot of you in the past 2 weeks, especially in our saying goodbye, and we hope to hug more. I thought it'd be fun to share a little bit about my side of the story when we were asked to go to India. But first, as Dharmaraj was talking, It reminded me of how when we came to India, how many weeks was it before Swami said maybe we should go to Switzerland and start a new work there? Yeah, we were there like 1 month, and Swami had this great idea. Hey, let's start a place in Switzerland. Will you two go? And we were there in India a month. It's like, okay, we're lucky that we don't have the ties that sometimes require people to have to stay in one spot. But
Would be nice though.
I'll tell you what, we got cats, and I thought cats were going to keep us here, but no. I have to say, Dharmaraj did a great job for sleeping. How many hours? 1 or 2? I don't know how many it's been. Maybe none. We were packing all night. That must be the Indian food. When Swamiji gave that email, and then he sent 1 or 2 more that same evening. Have you thought about it? Have you thought any more about it? And Dharmaraj had in his mind very dutifully, well, we're committed to LA, and I thought, Swami's asking this for a reason. Swami doesn't ask things lightly like that. And he doesn't write 3 times and say, have you thought about it yet? And so the question was kind of avoided with the answer of LA, we feel 1,000% committed. But I knew in the back of my mind something was going on there. And I went into seclusion after our time in Arizona. The reading today is beautiful because of it talking about the bliss of God and the presence of God. And, we all know, Patanjali says, yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha. And that's yoga is the neutralization of the waves of feeling in the heart. That's our essence. That is how we get to bliss. Bliss comes with calmness. And so I highly recommend 2 weeks seclusion before you're asked to go to India. When Swamiji asked this, it didn't leave my mind. I took it seriously in my own mind when he said that. But I thought, well, maybe there's a chance that he'll talk to Jyotish and Devi, and someone else will say, I really want to go to Chennai. But in seclusion, I was blessed with every day. I asked Divine Mother, I said, if you want us to go to Chennai, how can that work? How will that look? And how will that be? And what about my health and all these other factors? How is that going to be? And so every day, without my desiring it or without my trying for it, and some of you have heard the story if you're from South Bay or we just recently had dinner with you, that every day I was blessed with some kind of an answer. You're going to land in Delhi and then you're going to see these people. And then it was like, whoa, okay. And then the next day it would be, and then you'll meet with this guy because he'll help you reestablish your residency, and then this will happen. And it's like, oh, okay, thanks, And you'll see Haridas and Roma and all your friends in Bangalore that, keep writing and saying, when are you coming back to India? When are you coming back to India? When are you coming back to India? And so then there's all these other things kept coming into mind, like fly to Kerala. That must be Baljinder's little boy.
Himraj.
That's right, yeah, Himraj. Maybe it's God saying, end the sermon, please. so anyway, then there was this vision of going to Chennai and seeing all these really young students. And every day for 2 weeks, I woke up with this in my mind, and then it would pass through during meditation. And after a week of it, I said, okay, Swami has not dropped the thought of us going to Chennai. He means it. And Divine Mother is like blessing me with how to make it work. And even when he asked, I didn't feel like, no, or anything like that. I just wanted to be open and know what God wanted for us, and know what direction Divine Mother was asking us to go. And honestly, after contemplating this and going through 2 weeks of that, the last day of my seclusion, I saw that day what would be packed in our 4 suitcases. I mean, come on. And so that afternoon was when Swami wrote and said, basically, you guys are going to Chennai, sort of, please, but not really. You guys are he put it the nice way. But Swami really wants us there. And so, I've been on the path 20 years, and this is not a brainless, blindly following type relationship that we have with Swamiji. It's a very deep relationship, just as all of you have, whether you realize it or not. And Swamiji knows us very well. And that's the only reason why he knew he could say, go. Because if we were the types that, in our own minds would start arguing against it, no, and I don't really want to do it. I mean, I feel like he had a hand in those little visions going through my mind in the past 2 weeks and already knew the answer. And Dharmaraj said, well, what do you think? I said, well, I saw the 4 suitcases packed today. So I think the answer is yes. All the other things, how it's going to happen, how we're going to say goodbye to precious souls in Ananda, LA that we love dearly, that is the hardest part of it all. However, the power of the mind is so strong. We can put our mind anywhere we want it. We can connect with anybody we want. We know that all we have to do is think about one another, and we're connected in spirit. It's so easy. We practice it every day when we're having difficulties and fights with other people. We put our mind over there and we feel the controversy. And so why put our minds there with the controversy? Instead, let's use our minds to connect with God, to connect with the Guru, connect with each other across the sea, plus we have Skype and other things which we'll send out. We'll send out our Skype information. We're leaving here just feeling so appreciative and so grateful in our hearts. We feel just a tremendous joy at being able to share everything that we've shared with all of you here. And it's just another chapter. Who knows? One of you might say hello to Raj. Who maybe Baljinder can grab him, Raj. Anyway, I think that's the end of the sermon with that bell. So God bless you all, and thank you so much.
What is love? Is it only ours? Or does love whisper in the flowers? Surely we, children of this world, could not love our own powers. What is joy? Is it just a dream? Or does joy laugh in every stream? Are the clouds mindless after all? Or is joy all nature's theme? God is dead, so men say. Can't they see all life's display? Not a church we, children of this world, could not love by our own powers. What is love? What is love? Is it love?